You left without a trace to a vast and
Welcome to the 5th episode of Double Life Exposed, a 6-part series taking an in-depth look at each track on singer-songwriter Christian Beach's recently released EP, Double Life. This time we'll take a closer look at the EP's 5th track, Desert Places. And joining us once again is the artist himself, Christian Beach. Christian, how are you?
Doing great, Brian. Glad to see you again.
Good to see you as well. So
That's number 5 already. Wow.
we're at number 5. We're almost at the end.
Bye.
We're almost there. So let's talk about the 5th track on Double Life, which is Desert Places. And once again, it starts out with an interesting intro, lots of percussion, but some weird noises going on there. What's happening at the start of Desert Places?
Yeah, that cacophony of noise there, that's really just some acoustic, some percussion that's triggering some different samples. So I had a sample pack which had some kind of bombastic sounds on it, sounds that were like a chain falling in a warehouse type of sound, massive hand claps recorded in this big, warehouse or cathedral. So I wanted this sort of big sort of loop to start out the song. But it started out at just playing one of the cajon that I have, and just tapping a beat on that. So that's how it started, and really I used that just as a guide to record the drums in the song. So I sort of had the beat. I just played the whole thing with the cajon all the way through, and then I thought, it's it because the interplay with the beat that I played on that and the basic very, again, that same type of drum beat, the doom da, which I kind of used in some of the other songs. Just very simple. The drums I just wanted to be sort of pure and simple there, nothing too outrageous. So the interplay between that beat and the drum beat were kind of interesting. So I just developed that a little bit more. And, again, I wanted to fuse the acoustic and the sort of electronic elements a little bit and take things a little bit further. And, those sounds that I was thinking of, I think, well, let me just trigger some of these other sounds, that I mentioned on that sample pack. Just experimenting with those different textures, and then just created that loop, and that's kind of how it started. And that loop is actually throughout the whole song, but it gets turned down a little bit once all the other instrumentation comes in.
Okay. And now Desert Places has the distinction of being the only non-DIY track on the EP, as it features the only performance not done by you.
True. Yeah, and that wasn't by design necessarily, but that's just the way it happened. But yeah, I couldn't play that mandolin part. Certainly not the same way my dad, Gorgo, was an amazing musician and songwriter in his own right. So he added that mandolin part, which is the essence of the song, really, the acoustic guitar and the mandolin, kind of hold the whole thing together. And, I just built out from there. So yeah, that, I wouldn't be able to play that mandolin part like that. Nor would I want to.
Yeah. It's funny. The one thing when I first heard the song, and obviously when the EP came out, it was, we were already in lockdown, but it just seemed like that would be, as somebody who has spent time in your backing band, I felt that was the song that would have been fun to play live. But not that all of them wouldn't be, but that one just, even though it's really not a fun song, and we'll get into that. But you know, it just seemed like a very, you know, fun song to play. Maybe not listen to the lyrics, but so let's get into that. You know, again, it's another song.
Hopefully one day we will be able to play that live.
Excuse
Hopefully
me.
one day we'll,
Yeah.
hopefully one day we'll be able to get up on the stage and play that live.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. So the song, again, it's another one that, you know, the lyrics have very evocative imagery attached to them. Why don't you talk about the inspiration and things that, you know, led to the creation of the song?
Sure. Well, I happen to have it right here. So the inspiration of the song came from this book. It's John Steinbeck, Travels with Charlie, In Search of America. So I came across the part in the book where he goes to the Mojave Desert, and he travels in this little RV basically from, you know, coast to coast, and talks about his adventures and his sort of just you know, his thoughts on things and how America has changed, and you know, talks about some of his viewpoints. So it kind of came from that, but it was really a starting point. So there was some strong imagery in that chapter of the book that I thought was intriguing, and I was developing this song and I was reading it at the same time, and I just thought, oh, interesting, desert places. So I just came up with that title, and then all this imagery was you know, flowing through my mind as I sort of elaborated on that. So it's not, you know, word for word from the book or even really related to the book. It was just more of an inspiration. So again, with this project, a lot of this sort of imagery was, you know, it wasn't really to write in a linear type of format or to tell a story, you know, in that way. So, you know, coming from the, you know, Bob Dylan, Warren Zevon, you know, approach to songwriting, where you can sort of just make up your own idea about what it is, and you know, it might mean something different to each person. So that's the kind of songwriting that I really enjoy, although I do like the linear format as well, you know, when you're doing just traditional, you know, storytelling. But that's kind of, you know, where the song's coming from, and I think every time I listen to it, it kind of means something different. Although, you know, there's a common thread in the song about maybe, you know, trying to search for something that you'll never find, trying to search for that gold, and it's you know, not what you expected.
So let's dive right into the mix then, and you can walk us through the song.
Okay, cool. So this is all the tracks in Desert Places. So again, nothing crazy. There's about 46 tracks, including effects, which you know, there's a lot of people pile on, you know, 100 or 200 tracks. Just can't work that way. But a lot of these are submixed. So, for instance, the loop with the cajon, it's triggering all those different sounds. I just created a stereo loop, and that's when those first come in here. So this is that loop. You hear that? So all of that, there's hand claps in there as well, and those were hand claps that I overdubbed. But the hand claps are also triggering the sampled hand claps that were part of that sample pack that I discussed. So you know, just a lot of kind of a thick sound going on there. And this is the original cajon here, playing that beat. So I kept that in there as well, put a little bit of delay on that, and then added in the rest of those sounds. So then, you know, once we have the drums that come in, just okay, just go in and so these were the drums that I recorded So this is the overhead and the room sound. I also added in some distortion there as well on the room sound, and then we have, you know, the various triggers that I put on the drums also to make those a bit thicker. So that's basically the essence of the drums percussion there. So the I could just play the guitar and the mandolin, which again, I mean, you can break this down. You can break this song down acoustically. You know, the song was written acoustically, and you know, like I said, everything was kind of built around that. So the acoustic guitar and the mandolin here. So that's basically, you know, the essence of it. And then besides the loops, I'm just trying to see some things that. So going into the chorus. This next one here. I just put a. There's an organ in the chorus. So I'm not sure, you know, if you hear that in the mix, it's kind of buried a little bit, but I just added some things that kind of give it color. So, you know, the kind of interesting, I guess, the weirdness comes in on the bridge here. So the bridge was interesting because I didn't have a, you know, melodic bridge, and I tried a few things, but I don't know, they just didn't sound right to me. So I figured, let me just take, you know, these whatever 16 measures, whatever it is, and I'm just going to put the beat with that loop, have that going, and just add some kind of weirdness. So
it's just like a breakdown, really.
It's really like a breakdown, exactly. So it's really a breakdown, almost like a dancey type of thing. But I also kind of like the monotony, and you know, it kind of reminded me of, you know, the desert. It's just monotonous. It goes on forever. There's really not much to see. But these little things are kind of creeping underneath the sand. So the so there's this weird texture here that kind of goes through it, and it starts at a very low volume, and it gets raised throughout that part. So that's this. So that thing. So that is basically just a guitar, an Ebo guitar. I think on one of the previous episodes I used that. Well, I think on Food on the Table. So same device. Basically, it's like a magnetic device that you touch the strings, the guitar strings with, and an electric guitar, and it just creates, you know, endless sustain. So I recorded that, and then just that's put through a variety of different types of effects to get that, you know, Brian Eno-esque kind of landscape, whatever you want to call it. So that's the main part. And then I have a couple things that are sort of coming. So there's also a little bit of an organ on that break too, doing a simple kind of thing. It comes in right here. Let's mix it with that. And then there's towards the end of that, there's another sound that comes in. So that comes in that last part of that bridge part as well. That kind of creeps in there.
Is that echoing kind of the vocal part there? Is that what I was hearing?
No, that is actually a that comes in if I play the whole song together. It should be coming in now. Yeah, it's just a sound that comes in, and I have far off on the right speaker, and again, just kind of building up that part before it completely, before it completely just goes down to that couple beats of silence before that verse starts.
I'll have to listen for that. That's something new for me. I haven't heard that yet, so I'll have to listen for that.
It's funny because before I had it mastered, I noticed that sound was a little bit more prominent. But when I had it mastered, it might have just had to do something with the compression that was used, and it kind of buried it a little bit. Yeah, again, these things, it didn't really matter how, if they were too loud or too low, but it just, again, just added that, additional level of, creepiness. Then I think that's it for that part. Trying to see. Oh yeah. So what I also did too for the bridge, there's a vocal vocal part that's pitched down, and it gets raised at the very end of the mix. I have my automation turned off, but this is the vocal.
Boy, you better take that night before the sun rises. Boy, you better take that night before that sun rises. Boy, you better take that night before that sun rises.
And that part just comes in towards at the very end to kind of just accentuate that last line, before that sun rises. And that's just in that last part. And again, I was just doing things, to spend some time on some of these transitions from, part to part, to make it a little more interesting to the listener. And then in the third. And in that last verse, I wanted to add just one more element in there for that last verse to kind of stand out, and that's when I added this sort of like this synth drone thing, which is like a Gary Newman type of thing. And I don't know if you heard that.
I did, and I liked it, of course.
So that's just to give it a little bit of that extra ambiance in that last part. And then the third chorus, the only thing that's different about the third chorus, and I recorded these guitars, and I wasn't going to keep them. I recorded them. I said, that's not, because I was going to put these in the choruses. I said, that doesn't work. But I forgot to take out, I forgot to delete the waveforms for the last chorus. I kept them in by accident, and I left them in there. So, that kind of sounds cool, just as that very last part. So these guitars. So I left those in there. I just again, just to lift up that last chorus, and that's the only time they're in the song. So yeah, that's basically it. Again, just spent time with the drums, making those drums and the percussion solid, with that loop, and I kind of created the foundation and just added these other sounds, which again is kind of the theme of what I was doing, kind of adding some of these electronic parts and different things to kind of weave in and out of the song to make it more interesting to me.
Excellent. Well, that concludes this look at Desert Places from Christian Beach's new EP, DoubleLife. We'll be back with next week's finale to explore the closing track, Dark Room. If you want to check out DoubleLife, just go to christianbeach.net, where you can find links to all the ways you can download or stream the EP, and there are some videos there as well. Christian, thank you for discussing Desert Places with us. We'll see you next week for Dark Room.
Of course, a lot of fun, Brian. Thank you.
Fate is surely known, and I'll say